Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to NAUI's Dive Team Report. I'm your host, Greg Martin. We've had a lot of guests here on the program in the last year and a half or so, and we've talked about the current status of the diving industry and how things are progressing and whatnot. But I wanted to take a few minutes and dip back and check out what the history was like and the days gone by, and how maybe looking forward from that point in time, things have actually progressed. We're chatting on the program with Dr. Glen Egstrom, who was NAUI president. Remember what years that was, Glenn?
Golly, I don't.
It was back in the early 70s?
70s, yes.
Yeah.
I was certified in 64 with LA County, and the following year, so 65 with NAUI, and then I think I went on the board pretty much right away, and I was got involved in the NAUI leadership stuff.
Sure.
About that time.
What brought you to diving? I mean, what brought you into going to LA County and getting certified in the first place?
I was born and raised in North Dakota. And we had a small local lake, and one of my friends came back from the Navy with a green box that said U.S. Navy on it, and it had a place for a cylinder of oxygen and a breathing bag, and I thought, hot damn, so he took that and got the cylinder filled with oxygen and got barrel lime in the canister. It was a rebreather.
Uh-huh.
But it was a rebreather for closed compartments, and it wasn't waterproof, which I wasn't. It looked like it would be waterproof. It was water resistant. And so I went into the lake with that and barely got underwater and knew something was radically wrong. So I went back to the surface and got out of the water and took a look, and the barrel lime canister had flooded, of course. And so that was the end of that experiment. But I always, I was a pretty good free diver, and I used to do, during the summers, I was a waterfront director at a YMCA camp in Minnesota, and I would, under that circumstance, the fishermen would lose some of their gear, so I built a planing board that you could tow behind a outboard.
Sure.
And the fishermen always knew exactly where they dumped the stuff. It's like the X on the bottom of the boat business. And at any rate, I used to make $25 if I would go down and pick up their motors, fishing rods, just anything they would drop over the side.
That was pretty good money back then, right?
Well, it was. You bet. There's no problem with that. And met a couple of fellows from the LA County program, Clint Den and Mike Brock, and they agreed to come out and teach a certification course at UCLA. They put on the course. I graduated from that course, got a basic certification, and the following year I went through 13 UICC with Los Angeles County, and a few years beyond that, I became the president of LA County School Program and the chairman of their board of directors at a point in time. And I worked with LA County for quite a while, and then it became obvious that needed to, really wanted to be working with some national organizations. So we got next to NAUI, and they came out. That's at the time that I met Art Ulrich and some of the people. In fact, John Resick and I were in the same class, instructor's course.
Right.
It was held at UCLA. By that time, I was teaching courses and had gotten heavily involved with both LA County and NAUI. We went forward from there, and so I was certified both LA County and NAUI, and then I started working with some NAUI instructors courses. In fact, I was a course director for several courses in Hawaii as I became president of NAUI, and had some great experiences with them, including the International Conference on Underwater Education, or as we called it, IQ. And that became a really interesting program, because what we envisioned, there were a small group of folks, Resick and Ulrich and Cushman, and Roy Damron was involved back in those days as well. He was in Hawaii, though. But at any rate, we set up a working group, and John Resick had access to his college's facilities, and so we set up the first NAUI IQ, and had lots of fun. We brought in some of the, Cousteau and I'm trying to remember who else. But we had quite a few of the top names in diving at the time that came and participated, and we put that program on, and it was successful. And I think we had either one or two more, and DEMA felt that they could do a better job of dealing with the manufacturers and whatnot, so they moved away and put on their own show, and that left us with a show that was, light on manufacturers and whatnot. They still supported us a little bit, but not the way they had. Mm-hmm. But after a few seasons, we just started going to DEMA. Our experiences that we had with IQ were kind of put on the back burner, and I understand there's a move afoot now to try and get it back up into the mainstream of diving education, which I think is a good thing.
Yes, there is. Yes, there are. The IQ is moving forward these days. So, Glenn, what kept you coming back to this underwater world? What is it about the underwater world that so fascinated a upper Midwest boy?
Well, I have always, since I've been old enough to think about it, divided the population of Earth into two categories: water people and non-water people. And I just really get along well with the water people. So that's where I've kept my interest and taken my time, and it's offered me the ability to quite literally dive all over the world and to involve myself in a variety of underwater programs. The one that I've been with the longest now is called Our World Underwater Scholarship Society, and there are many of the NAUI people are involved in that.
I want to ask you real quick, Glenn, before we kind of wrap up here, talk a little bit about changes in gear. You've seen a lot of gear changes over the years, and obviously a lot of it is for the better. Is there something about the original gear, though, that is, it's charming to think about using this simplistic gear from back then. Is there part of it that you miss?
As a matter of fact, I had a laboratory at UCLA. It was called the Underwater Performance Laboratory, and we tested equipment and programs and protocols for almost 30 years. In that, we saw changes, but generally speaking, the innovative changes came about through people like Ralph Osterhout, and somewhat through the maestros and some of the people that got into instruction and then recognized there were things that they could do. I just was reflecting the other day, when we first got into instruction, we did some things that were pretty marginal in terms of their effectiveness. And there was this almost constant, steady movement toward shorter and shorter courses. The course that I taught to basic students was 30 hours and 12 dives. That was, we thought, a pretty good basic course. They came out of the course with ability to be able to deal with our Southern California waters, which I've always said, if you can dive here, you can dive anywhere. It's been a little disheartening to see the erosion of the individual standards that's taken place over time. I think we're down now to some places you can drop into a resort and be certified and dive the next day.
I got to say thanks for helping build an incredible organization. NAUI still by far, in my book, outranks them all. And there are a lot of good agencies out there, but NAUI is still the grandfather. You were number 937. You've got one of those low-digit numbers there. And
yes.
now you're a member of NAUI's Hall of Honor. And, again, thanks for putting the time in and making this a better industry, a better sport.
It has come a long way, and there's still a lot of room for improvement. And I still believe in hands-on programs. In other words, if you have someone that wants to become a diver, they need to be put in the hands of a diver to become a comfortable diver. Because if they're not comfortable, then they're just going through a series of survival exercises. And I don't think that's too wonderful.
No. Again, thanks for your input into the organization, and appreciate you being on the show with us today.
All righty.
And that's going to wrap. Yeah, thank you. And that's going to wrap it up for this episode of NAUI's Dive Team Report. I'm Greg Martin. Guys, I hope to see you underwater real soon. Take care.